crafty viewers. For today's project, I'm going to be working on this journal slash book cover using the Prima Lavender collection. Now this project really took me out of my comfort zone because I'm not really that much into shabby chic, and I really struggle with creating layered designs, mixed media things. So this was really fun to work on, and it really challenged me, but I think in the end it turned out beautiful. So sit back and watch how I pulled together this disc-bound journal cover. Very often in my videos I will do a walkthrough of all the different products that were used in doing the project. However, for this video I'm not going to do that because this is a pretty long video to begin with. However, I will put a list of the products used in credits at the end of the video, and I will also include a link to our website in the video notes below. On our website you'll be able to see that full list of products that were used, as well as links to other projects that I did using this Prima Lavender collection. And I'll also include a little bit more detail about how I went about creating this journal cover. So check it out there. Now, let's get started. So to start with, I'm using a sheet of 140-pound Nina Solar White cover stock. Now this is a fairly sturdy piece of paper, and it's cut to 6 inches wide by 8.5 inches. That way the paper and the cover in the notebook will all stand on the table, but it's an extra ½ inch to cover up tabs on the inside of the notebook. I also cut a piece of this Prima Lavender paper and cut it to the same size, and now I'm punching holes in it using my Lavender punch. This is a disc binding hole punch, and that allows the two pieces to be adhered together. I'm going to use my Xyron machine with the 9-inch roll in it in order to have a really firm connection between the Prima Lavender paper and the cover stock. And that way, that instead of just taping it on, that makes sure that it sticks together really well. It forms a more solid piece. I mean, this is a cover, so you want it to be nice and sturdy. So I'm just burnishing down the backing, and I will attach it together. Now, whenever I adhere stuff like this together, I always make sure that I use a piece of that non-stick paper there so that I can get the edges all put together and get it perfectly positioned before it sticks to the whole rest of the page. And you'll notice here that I'm having second thoughts. And I want to do a little corner rounding on the outer corners before I stick it together. I think I had second thoughts several times in this process. So by leaving just a ½ inch on each side, that gives you an area that you can tack it down to get it in position without having the entire sheet tacked down in case you need to pick it up and reposition it. So now we got that put together nice and secure. There's some beautiful copper colored foil enhancements on this paper, and I wanted to have something to add a little bit of interest to it. So I took some of the dark velvet Art Alchemy paint by Finnabair, and I painted a piece of lattice that I cut out using my Card Making Magic lattice punch or lattice die from Christina Griffith, and then I kind of cut around to make it into a a shape that's, you know, not quite as squared off. And here I'm just adhering it with some glue. Now I did run through this a couple times. I painted a sheet first and then I die cut it, and that left a lot of white edges on it, and that meant I had to go back and actually repaint it again. I also did a second one where I painted it after I die cut it, and that gave a lot of nice coverage to it. See, that's the second one. You can see the white edges on that second one. Look how pretty that is. That's just gorgeous. I love this paint. And here you can see sort of the white edges on it. So die cut first, then paint. It'll turn out better. I also had previously cut a bunch of different frames out from that same die set from Christina Griffith's Card Making Magic, and I painted them with different colors of the Art Alchemy paints. This one was the brass hardware. The one to the right there is a plum, and the other one, I forgot what color that was, and just kind of played around to see which one I like best. I also cut a backing out in order to secure the frame onto, because it's going to hold a sheet of paper, a backing of paper from this sheet of paper in the Lavender collection. And in hindsight, I should have actually picked one of these lighter colors, because the one that I chose, it was pretty dark. And I just used the inside piece that I had cut the frame out with and cut that piece out. And then I'm going to adhere it down to this backing so it all holds together. That way that'll hold the interior piece on behind the frame. And I needed to get the frame stuck down a little bit first to start in order to get it positioned to exactly where that centerpiece needed to be. And you can see here the benefit of having that backing paper so that you can pick it up and move it as you get it positioned around. Now I also needed to get a couple of the edges down before I started to put that backing in. And you'll see that I play around with it here a little bit, just to get it in the right spot. I think there might have been two different sides to this die, even though it should be identical. It didn't seem to be. Or maybe when I painted it, the size of the paper changed size or something. So here I'm just wedging that interior piece in so it's kind of stuck under the frame just a little bit, and that'll help hold it down as well. Ovals are not the easiest thing to put in place. You think it would be, but it really hasn't. I've had a lot of challenges with all the ovals that I've used in this collection. Squares are easy because you have corners, circles are easy, but ovals, you have to get them just right. Now I could remove that release paper and press everything down and into place. And the nice thing about using the double-sided adhesive is that you don't have to worry about waiting to let it dry. Now for the next step, I'm going to take the dark velvet paint, and I have a, oh, never mind. I'm going to take my Copic marker in a similar color and just fill in the edges from that white backing. Make it a little less obvious. But you can see there to the left-hand side of the screen a Flourish, and that was made using paper clay and a Flourish mold that was a candy mold from a company called, I believe it was FPC Sugar Crafts, that I found on Etsy. And I ordered a bunch of molds from them. You could probably use the Prima iron orchid molds too. Those would work really nice. I don't happen to have any of those. And so I'm going to paint that Flourish with some of the dark velvet Art Alchemy paint. I made a whole bunch of them up at the same time, and you have to make sure that when they dry flat. Mine dried kind of at an angle a little bit, and excuse me, it actually didn't dry real flat. Now what's interesting about this paint is it actually has a black undertone to it, and then the purple shimmer. But you'd never know it unless you just see a little bit of it on, like wiping your brush off on a sheet of paper. I think with all the projects that I've done, I used almost a half of a jar of it. But it is beautiful paint. I'm going to let that dry. And here you can see it's dry and the detail on it. Now I'm just trying to figure out where on the width of the paper where I want to position the frame, and that's why I put that piece of white paper there. Here you can see how pretty this is. And I put the white paper there to block off where the holes are punched, to kind of be able to visually judge the halfway mark across the sheet of paper. And that will help line it up when I start to glue everything together. I had to use quite a bit of the multi-matte adhesive to be able to get the Flourish adhered down adequately. But first, before I do that, I'm actually going to attach the frame onto the journal cover. And again, I want to line it up so that I'm getting it in the right spot on the page. So I really loaded up the back of it, because like I said, when it dried, it didn't dry flat, and so that way by using the multi-matte medium, which has a firmer body to it, that gives you a little bit of extra mass to be able to glue it down. If you use a soft gel adhesive, it doesn't have a firm enough support to attach something. And now I'm going to take the multi-matte medium and use some Prima Prills. These I actually got at Michael's, and it came in a collection that had several different metallic colors to it. Or these might be called micro beads. And they go everywhere. Now, you want to make sure you don't knock that over, because oh my gosh, that would make a mess. And no, I did not learn that from experience. I was very careful not to knock that over. Now before I put some flowers down, I wanted to add a little extra, just interest across the bottom. So I'm taking the sticker from the sticker collection and just put it down so that the tail end of it falls right underneath the bottom edge of the frame. At this point I should have put my lace down, but I was so excited about flowers that I completely forgot. So I took some flowers from two different collections, and I wanted to have some lighter colored flowers, not some darker flowers, to kind of stand out next to this paper. But from that pastel pack, the other ones just weren't the right color, so I did end up with a little purple flower. The flowers really make the cover. I mean, they make such a difference on the cover. But the only problem is now I can't stand this journal on the shelf in between other books. So it sits out where I can see it all the time. The leaves that came in that flower collection were just way too big in scale. So I took some Always Artichoke paper from Stampin' Up, as well as my Stampin' Up leaf punch. And I punched out some leaves that were very similar in shape and a little darker in color. I like this color a little bit better. And here you can't see it very well, but I drew in some veining on the leaves to give it some interest, and now I'm kind of rolling them up to give them a little bit of 3D shape to them. I did the same one with this second set of leaves. And now I can stick my flowers down. Now these flowers needed a good deal of adhesive to get them to stick with all the different layers that I have going on there. I also wanted to have something in the top right hand corner and thought that one of the lighter colored butterflies from the butterfly collection would be pretty. Now these butterflies seem to be sold out pretty much everywhere, but if you ruffle the different layers, there's 3 layers to them apart, you can see it's actually, they were cut out of some of the paper. And you could take some of the paper and stamp on some vellum for the top layer and create your own butterflies if you have stamps and dies. Here I'm taking the lace. I realized I had forgotten to put the lace on, and I'm adhering it down just outside of the disc-bound whole punch line there. And thankfully the flowers weren't glued completely down all the way, so I was actually able to take the big flower off, put the lace down, and re-adhere the big flower. And yes, I did dress to match the paper. Okay, all that dried. Now I'm getting some tags that came out of the ephemera collection. And I had these 2 tags, and one's looks like a movie ticket, and then the other one said smile on it. And I thought, you know what, this is a journal full of my art supply. It's a colored journal so that I can tell what colors paints and inks are. And I thought, what a perfect thing to put on there, but something that says smiles, because you smile when you go have fun with all of your supplies. I also wanted to get a sticker on here, and this one says the best day. And I thought, you know what, that goes just in line with that theme as well. It's just the best day when you're able to sit and play and have fun with all your craft supplies. Something was missing, so I decided, you know what, I don't have enough little micro beads on my desk. Let's add some more. And here I'm just putting down some of the matte medium and adding in some more of the micro beads. This time around, instead of taking the lid off, I'm just sprinkling them on because I didn't want to put a ton of them on this time. Next up, I clean up some of the beads that went into different areas where I didn't really want them. There were some that were sitting on top of the frame there. And I decided that I wanted to add just a little bit of shimmer onto my flowers. So I'm using the Nouveau shimmer pen that came out recently and just adding a little bit of shimmer and shine to the outer surface of all the flowers. The only thing left to do at this point is just trim off those edges on the lace and sit back and admire my work. So here's some close-ups of the finished journal cover. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, please give us a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button so you can be notified of new videos being posted as well as new entries out on our blog. Thanks and have a great day. Happy crafting!